He laughed in my face when he buried my puppy. He wasn't laughing when the SWAT team kicked down his door. Honey, grab the bottle. Not the glass, the whole bottle. Because the tea I am about to spill is scorching hot. It is tragic. And it ends with the kind of justice that makes you want to stand up and slow clap. We are talking about a neighbor from hell, a mother who could win a gold medal in gaslighting, and a level of petty revenge that I legally cannot recommend. But spiritually? Oh, I recommend it. Let me tell you how we got here. I moved into this house about 8 months ago. It was supposed to be my sanctuary. I had just gotten out of a relationship that was, let's just call it draining, and I needed a fresh start. The house was perfect. A cute little bungalow with a wraparound porch, a big backyard for my beagle, Barnaby, and a neighborhood that looked like it was ripped straight out of a Hallmark movie. You know the type. Manicured lawns, people actually waving when you drive by. The whole 9 yards. Or so I thought. The first week was bliss. I was unpacking, drinking coffee on the porch, watching Barnaby sniff every blade of grass like he was investigating a crime scene. But then I met them, the neighbors directly to my left. Let's call the son Kyle. Kyle is 24 years old, but he has the emotional maturity of a toddler who just had his iPad taken away. He still lives at home with his mother, who we will call Brenda. Brenda is, well, imagine if a migraine had a physical form and wore too much floral perfume. That is Brenda. My first interaction with Kyle wasn't a handshake. It wasn't a welcome to the neighborhood fruit basket. No, honey. It was a heart attack. I was in my kitchen, unpacking the fragile boxes, when I heard a pounding on my front door. Not a knock, pounding, like the police were doing a raid. My heart jumped into my throat. I rushed to the door, looked through the peephole, and saw nothing. Just the empty porch. I opened the door, confused, and suddenly, bam! A figure in a ski mask jumped out from the side of the house, screaming at the top of his lungs, wielding a baseball bat. I screamed. I dropped to my knees. I physically couldn't breathe. My hands flew up to cover my face because I genuinely thought, this is it. I'm dying on a Tuesday. Then the figure started laughing. He pulled off the mask, revealing this greasy-haired, smug-faced guy doubling over, slapping his knee. You should have seen your face, he wheezed. Oh my God, you looked like you were going to wet yourself. I was trembling. I was so full of adrenaline I could taste copper in my mouth. I stood up, my legs shaking, and I screamed, What is wrong with you? Who does that? He just shrugged, wiping a tear from his eye. It's just a prank, lady. Relax. I'm Kyle. I live next door. Welcome to the block. Try not to die of boredom. And he walked away. Just walked away, like he hadn't just simulated a home invasion for a laugh. That was the first red flag. And honey, if I had known that flag was attached to a pole that would eventually burn my life down, I would have packed my bags right then and there. The escalation was slow, but it was constant. It was like water torture. Drip, drip, drip. A week after the prank, I came home to find my garden decimated. I love gardening. It's my therapy. I had planted these gorgeous tulips along the fence line. When I pulled into the driveway, they were gone. Not eaten by deer, no. Uprooted. The bulbs were thrown onto my porch, crushed under someone's boot heel. I went straight to Brenda's door. I banged on it, furious. Brenda opened the door, a glass of wine in hand, looking at me like I was a door-to-door salesman trying to sell her pest control. Can I help you? She asked, her voice dripping with that fake Southern Belle sweetness that makes your skin crawl. Your son, I said, pointing to my porch. He ripped up my entire garden. The bulbs are crushed on my doorstep, Brenda. She laughed. A light, tinkling laugh. Oh, don't be dramatic, dear. Kyle was just playing frisbee in the yard. He probably stepped on a few by accident. He's a high-energy boy. You know how young men are. He stepped on a few, I asked, my voice rising. He pulled them out of the ground and threw them at my door. She sighed, taking a sip of her wine. You're being very aggressive. Maybe if you didn't plant things so close to the property line, this wouldn't happen. Good night. and she closed the door in my face. I stood there, staring at the wood grain, realizing that the apple didn't fall far from the tree. The apple was rotten, and the tree was poisoned. It got worse. My car started getting keyed, long, deep scratches along the passenger side. I installed a camera, but the angle was bad, and the person wore a hoodie. I knew it was Kyle. He knew I knew. He would sit on his porch when I came home, smoking cigarettes, just staring at me with this dead-eyed, predatory grin. It made my stomach turn. Then came the ladder incident. I was in the bath. I had had a long day. I was soaking with a bath bomb, trying to relax. I heard a thump against the side of the house, then a scraping sound. I froze. I looked at the frosted glass of the bathroom window. A shadow appeared. Someone was climbing up. I wrapped a towel around myself, grabbed the plunger, because it was the only weapon I had, and ripped the window open. There was Kyle on a ladder, face pressed against the glass. He didn't even look scared. He just smirked. "Nice bubbles," he said. I screamed so loud the neighbors 3 doors down probably heard me. "Get down! I'm calling the cops!" He shimmied down the ladder, laughing the whole way. "Chill out, I was just checking the gutters." I called the police. I was shaking, crying, wrapped in a towel in my living room. 2 officers showed up 40 minutes later. They took a report. They went over to talk to Kyle. 10 minutes later, they came back. "Look, ma'am," the officer said, looking bored. "He says he was retrieving a baseball from the roof. It's a he said, she said situation. We can't arrest someone for getting a ball." "He was peeping on me," I yelled. "He's a creep." "Just try to get along," the officer said. "Neighbor disputes are messy. Have a good night." I felt helpless, completely and totally helpless. If you are already shook by the audacity of this man and the incompetence of the police, hit that like button, because, honey, I haven't even gotten to the part that broke me. We haven't even gotten to Barnaby. About a month into this nightmare, I was walking Barnaby. He was my rock, a chubby, happy rescue beagle who wouldn't hurt a fly. We were walking past Kyle's house. Kyle was out in the driveway washing his truck. As soon as he saw us, his whole demeanor changed. He dropped the sponge and started walking toward us, walking fast. "Keep walking, Kyle," I warned, tightening my grip on the leash. "Get that rat off my property," he spat, getting right in my face. We were on the public sidewalk. "We are on the sidewalk," I said, stepping back. He lunged at me. I don't know if he was going to hit me or just scare me, but he grabbed my arm hard. Barnaby, my sweet, gentle Barnaby, reacted. He lunged and nipped Kyle's pant leg. He didn't maul him. He barely broke the denim. It was a warning nip. "Back off my mom." Kyle went ballistic. "You little piece of filth," he screamed. He pulled his leg back and kicked Barnaby. Hard, right in the ribs. I heard the sound. It was a wet thud. Barnaby yelped, a sound I will never ever forget, and scrambled behind my legs, whining. "Don't you touch him!" I shrieked, shoving Kyle back. "Are you insane? Control your beast or I'll put him down for you!" Kyle yelled, his face purple. "Next time, I won't stop at a kick." I scooped Barnaby up. He was wheezing. I ran back to my house, locked the door, and checked him over. He seemed okay, just bruised and scared. I cried into his fur for an hour, promising him I would protect him, but I failed. 3 nights later, I let Barnaby out into the backyard to do his business before bed. My yard is fenced. 6-foot privacy fence. It should have been safe. I was in the kitchen getting water when I heard it. A sharp, agonized squeal cut through the night air. Then silence. My heart stopped. I dropped the glass. It shattered. I ran to the back door, tore it open, and screamed, "Barnaby!" Nothing. I ran out into the dark, my phone flashlight shaking in my hand. "Barnaby! Boy!" I found him near the back fence. He wasn't moving. There was so much blood. It was dark, but I could see the wound in his side. It looked like he had been stabbed. I fell to my knees in the dirt. I was screaming, but I couldn't hear myself. It was like I was underwater. I scooped his body up. He was still warm, and I ran. I ran to the car, threw him in the passenger seat, and sped to the emergency vet. I drove like a maniac. I was begging, praying, bargaining with God. Take the house. Take the car. Just let him be okay. The vet took him immediately. I sat in the waiting room, covered in my dog's blood, staring at the wall. 20 minutes later, the vet came out. Her face said everything. "I'm so sorry," she said softly. "The trauma to his organs, the blood loss, he didn't make it." My world ended right there. The vet told me the wound wasn't an accident. It was a clean puncture. A knife. I knew in my soul who did it. I went home. It was 3 a.m. I didn't go inside. I walked straight to the fence bordering Kyle's yard, and there he was, sitting on his back porch, smoking a cigarette, just watching. He saw me. He saw the blood on my shirt, and he smiled. He took a drag of his cigarette and called out, soft enough so his mom wouldn't hear inside, but loud enough for me. "Told you to say goodbye to the rat." I didn't scream. I didn't attack him. I went cold. Ice cold. Something in me snapped, but it wasn't a loud snap. It was the quiet click of a safety being taken off. I called the police again. They came. I told them everything. I told them about the threat, the kick, the prank, the knife wound. They went to talk to Kyle. They came back. "Ma'am, he says he's been home all night watching TV with his mother." She corroborates his story. Without video evidence of him actually doing the act, "We can't arrest him. It's all circumstantial." "He killed my dog," I whispered. "He has a knife." "We can file a report," the officer said, looking uncomfortable. "But unless you have proof, our hands are tied." I watched them drive away. I stood in my empty house, holding Barnaby's collar, and I realized that the law wasn't going to help me. Brenda would lie for him until the end of time. Kyle would keep escalating until he hurt me. So, I prepared for war. I spent the next 2 days turning my house into a fortress. I bought high-definition cameras with night vision and audio. I hid them in the trees, in the gutters, inside the vents. I bought a dash cam for my car that records 24/7. I started a logbook, dates, times, direct quotes. Brenda came over 2 days after Barnaby died. I saw her walking up the path, holding a casserole dish. The audacity was breathtaking. I opened the door, but kept the screen locked. "I heard about your little dog," she said, putting on a sad face that didn't reach her eyes. "Such a shame. You really have to watch them in this neighborhood. Coyotes, you know." "It wasn't a coyote, Brenda," I said, my voice dead flat. "It was a knife, and your son did it." Her face hardened instantly. "Now you listen here. My Kyle is a sensitive boy. He would never hurt a fly. You are harassing us. You are obsessed with him. If you spread lies about my son, I will sue you for defamation. I brought you lasagna out of kindness, but clearly you're unstable." She set the dish on the porch and stormed off. I kicked the lasagna into the bushes. The harassment didn't stop. It got psychological. A week later, I found a letter slipped under my front door. No envelope. Just a piece of notebook paper. It read, "Say goodbye to your house next. Fire purifies everything." I felt sick. I took the note to the police. They filed it. "Could be anyone," they said. "Kids pranking." Kids pranking. About arson? I slept with a fire extinguisher next to my bed. I barely slept at all. I was watching the camera feeds on my phone constantly. I was a ghost in my own home. Then, the boiling point. It was a Tuesday night. I was working late in my home office. My office is in a detached garage in the backyard. I renovated it into a studio. I have all my equipment in there, my computer, my archives. I heard a crash. Glass breaking. I looked at the monitor. A figure in a black hoodie was running away from the studio. I grabbed my phone and ran to the back door. The smell hit me first. Gasoline. Then the whoosh. A wall of orange light erupted in the backyard. My studio was on fire. I screamed. I ran out, grabbing the garden hose, but it was pathetic against the flames. The fire was climbing the walls, eating the roof. I could feel the heat on my face, searing my skin. I dialed 911. "Fire! He set my house on fire!" I stood there, spraying water on the inferno, crying, watching everything I worked for turn to ash. And then I saw him. Kyle. He was standing in his bedroom window on the second floor. The lights were off in his room, but the fire illuminated his face. He was recording it with his phone. And he was laughing. The fire trucks arrived, they put it out, but the studio was a total loss. The police were there. The arson investigator was there. I walked up to the lead detective. I was covered in soot, my hair was singed, and I was done playing nice. "I have cameras," I said. "I have hidden cameras in the trees." I caught him. The detective looked at me. "Show me." I pulled up the app. My heart was pounding. I hadn't checked the footage yet. What if he missed the angle? What if it was too dark? I rewound the timeline. There. Clear as day. The camera, hidden in the old oak tree, had a perfect view of the side of my garage. Kyle walked into the frame. He wasn't wearing a mask this time. He was arrogant, careless. You could see his face. You could see the red gas can in his hand. You could see him splash the side of the building. You could see him light a rag and throw it. And then, this is the part that nailed his coffin shut. He turned directly to the camera, flipping off my house before running away. He didn't know the camera was there. He was flipping off me. The detective watched the video. He watched it twice. He looked at me. Then he looked at the two officers behind him. Go get him. Make sure you're subscribed because the update I'm about to drop is going to make you scream. I stood on my lawn, wrapped in a blanket as the police marched next door. They pounded on the door. Brenda answered, screaming immediately. "You can't come in here! Do you have a warrant? My son is sleeping!" "Ma'am, step aside." They pushed past her. I heard shouting. I heard things crashing. Then I saw Kyle. They dragged him out in handcuffs. He wasn't laughing anymore. He looked pale. He looked like a scared little boy. Brenda was running after them, clawing at the officers' uniforms. "He didn't do anything! She framed him! That woman is a witch! Let my baby go!" An officer turned to Brenda. "Ma'am, back up, or you're going in too for obstruction." They shoved Kyle into the back of the cruiser. As they drove past me, I locked eyes with him through the glass. I didn't smile. I didn't wave. I just stared. But wait. It gets better. Because once they had Kyle in custody, they got a warrant to search his room for the gas can and the clothes he wore in the video. Guess what they found? They found the gas can. They found the knife with dried blood on it. Barnaby's blood. But they also found a stash. Under his bed and in his closet, they found jewelry, laptops, iPads, designer purses. It turns out Kyle wasn't just a neighborhood nuisance. He was the ghost burglar that had been hitting houses in our county for the last 6 months. He had been breaking into homes, stealing valuables, and terrorizing people. He had photos on his phone. Photos of sleeping homeowners. Photos of me through my windows. He had a hit list of houses he was planning to burn down to cover his tracks. My house was just the first on the list. The fallout. The next few days were a blur of legal meetings and insurance adjusters. But the atmosphere in the neighborhood changed instantly. People came out of their houses. Neighbors I hadn't seen in months walked up to me. "Is it true?" one woman asked me, clutching her toddler. "Is he gone?" "He's gone," I told her. She started crying. "He killed my cat last year," she whispered. "I knew it was him, but Brenda said I was crazy." Another neighbor, an old man, told me Kyle had threatened to burn his car if he didn't give him money. We had all been living in fear of this one psychopath and his enabler mother. Update 1. 2 weeks later, Kyle was denied bail. The judge took one look at the video of him lighting my house on fire and the evidence of the burglary ring and said, "Absolutely not." Brenda, however, was still free, and she was on the warpath. She started a Facebook campaign claiming I was a predator who seduced her son and then framed him when he rejected me. She printed out flyers, honey, and put them on telephone poles. "Justice for Kyle! Neighbor, framed him!" I didn't even respond. I just took photos of the flyers and sent them to the detective and my lawyer. My lawyer sent her a cease and desist letter that was so scary I think it probably glowed in the dark. He threatened to sue her for defamation, harassment, and emotional distress. She took the flyers down the next day. Update 6 months later. The trial. The trial was satisfying. I had to testify. I had to sit there and watch the video of my studio burning. I had to talk about finding Barnaby. It was hard. I cried on the stand, but then the prosecution played the tapes. They had audio from my cameras of Brenda lying to the police. They had the video of Kyle. They had the forensic match of the knife to Barnaby. Kyle's lawyer tried to argue insanity. He tried to say Kyle had impulse control issues. The jury wasn't buying it. Brenda tried to make a scene in the courtroom. When I was testifying, she stood up and screamed, "You liar! You killed that dog yourself!" The judge slammed his gavel so hard I thought it would break. "Remove that woman from my courtroom immediately!" 2 bailiffs dragged Brenda out. She was kicking and screaming the whole way. It was beautiful. Final update. The karma, Kyle was found guilty. Guilty of arson. Guilty of animal cruelty. Guilty of 14 counts of burglary. Guilty of stalking. The judge sentenced him to 22 years in prison. 22 years. He will be a middle-aged man when he gets out. He cried when they read the sentence. He actually sobbed for his mommy. And speaking of mommy, Brenda lost everything. She had spent her life savings on Kyle's defense lawyer. She had mortgaged her house to pay for experts who couldn't save him. With Kyle gone and her reputation in the toilet, she couldn't afford the house anymore. Last week, I watched the moving truck pull up next door. Brenda walked out, looking 10 years older. She didn't have her wine glass. She didn't have her smug smile. She looked defeated. She looked at me one last time as she got into her beat-up sedan. I was standing on my porch. I raised my coffee mug to her. She looked away and drove off. The neighborhood is quiet now. The birds are singing. My flowers are blooming. I went to the shelter yesterday. I wasn't sure if I was ready, but I saw this little beagle mix with big, sad eyes. His name is Cooper. I brought him home. We sat on the back porch, looking at the spot where the studio used to be. I'm turning it into a massive dog run. Cooper fell asleep in my lap, safe and sound. Kyle is in a concrete cell. Brenda is broke and alone. And I am sipping my tea in peace. So let me ask you this. If someone hurt your pet, would you have stopped at prison or would you have gone even further? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to hug your fur babies tight tonight.